Welcome everyone to the Wellness Masterclass entitled A Future Shaped by Current Events, Integrative Wellness at Last with the incomparable Sue Harmsworth. More about Sue in just a few minutes. I'm Nancy Davis, Chief Creative Officer and Executive Director of both the Global Wellness Summit and Global Wellness Institute, and I'll be your host for today's call. I want to thank Tammy Pahel, VP of Spa and Wellness Operations at Carillon Miami Wellness Resort, our generous sponsor for today's masterclass. This is the first year that we're having these calls sponsored, and as long as we have people like Tammy who will support them, everyone else will continue to enjoy these events without any cost. So much gratitude, and I'll be asking Tammy to comment a little bit later in this call. Before introducing Sue, it's my pleasure to introduce Susie Ellis, Chair and CEO of both the Global Wellness Summit and Global Wellness Institute, to offer a word of welcome.
Thank you, Nancy, and I would like to welcome everyone. And I want to thank you, Sue, for doing this call. And for some of you who may not know, Sue has been on the board of the Global Wellness Summit for many, many years.
Is that just me, or did we lose Susie?
I think we lost her.
Okay, and is Sue Harmsworth still on the phone? Still on the call? I don't see Sue. Sue Harmsworth, if you're still on the call, will you just let us know by unmuting? Well, how about that?
Yeah, Nancy, she's gone.
Okay, hang on a sec. We will get her back for sure. She was having a little trouble connecting earlier, but
Sue?
hang on, everyone. I'm sending her a WhatsApp. But everyone else can hear me, yes?
Yeah.
And I see over 300 people, so I know, but we certainly can't move forward without our master.
No, we can't.
I've got Sue, but she's on her iPhone and I think she's muted.
Sue Harmsworth, if that might be a different Sue. Sue Harmsworth, if you are on, please unmute whatever device you might be on and let us know you're here. She's not. It's a different person.
No, I don't see her in the participant list.
I'm here.
Okay.
I see her on the queue. Says Sue's iPhone, and she's coming in and out of
Sue's iPhone is a different Sue.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
It really does look like her. She's on.
Oh, she's got. Are you there, Sue Harmsworth?
She's talking into the phone, but clearly there's some connection problem.
Well, this is a first, isn't it?
Oh, technically.
Nancy, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh.
Yes, we can hear you, Sue. Are you there?
I'm on my iPhone. For some reason, I can't connect on my video, on my iPad, which is a first. Can you see me? Can you see me?
Yes.
So I'll just have to do it on my phone.
Okay, I am looking for you. Okay, terrific. So, but you are here.
I am there.
And Susie Ellis, did you come back? Okay.
Looks like she's just there.
Beatrice, are you seeing Susie trying to get in the call at all?
I see Susie on.
Yeah.
Okay.
How are you?
Yeah.
Okay, you're back.
I'm back.
Okay.
And can you see me, Nancy? Can everyone see me?
Yes. I can see and hear you, Sue.
I need to find you, so you're at a different page, but as long as you're there and everybody can see you, that's wonderful. Okay. So there you go. There's the new world order with Zoom and all of its issues, but very glad to have both Susie and Sue back on the call. Susie, did you want to finish a quick hello?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that thank you to Sue, who's been on our board of the Global Wellness Summit for many years. and is now on the board of the Global Wellness Institute. And so your wisdom and contributions have been for many, many years. And I look forward to this topic of integrated wellness, because I know that is something you are, you're a visionary and you have a vision for this that we should all hear. So looking forward to it.
Thank you
Fantastic.
so much, Susie. And I just want to mention on the call, in addition to Susie and myself and Beatrice, whom you have met and who has you muted, we have a number of Michelle Gambles on the call, a number of the people from our team, and we have the best team ever. And so I'm very grateful to all of them. I don't think anybody needs a refresher on Zoom. I'll just say that if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We'll try to get to some of those. And if you want to view Sue in the speaker view, choose that on the top right or the gallery view. You get to see all of your friends all over the globe. And I thank you for your cooperation. We're going to keep you all muted. Okay. This is the second time I have had the pleasure of hosting and introducing Sue Harmsworth for a wellness masterclass. She embodies wellness, most certainly is a master, and she oozes class. So talking about Sue's accomplishments, her career, her impact on the industry, it just didn't seem enough. So as with most subjects that deserve in some way to be glorified, I decided to write an ode to introduce Sue. Here then is my ode to Sue Harmsworth. For half a century now, when people speak in tones hushed, with wistful expressions on their faces, they seek to unearth the storied tale of Sue Harmsworth and her myriad graces. For whom else among us is an MBE, noted by the Queen for her service to beauty and spa, who has designed 500 award-winning projects all over the globe and has the most glorious hair by far. Her lineage speaks volumes of her ongoing pursuits from her grandmother and her parents as well. Early exposure to traditional and alternative medicine served to cast the integrative spell. A beauty and health journalist in the early days, she ran salons and wellness destinations. All of those early experiences led Sue to create a company that exceeded all expectations. She founded and ran Espa, a company of mythic renown, then sold it for tens of millions some years later. A business acumen finally honed and deployed in the luxury sector Sue Harmsworth does cater. And now in what may laughingly be called semi-retirement, a phase that for Sue knows no leisure. She is as busy as she chooses, working all over the world, bringing expertise and innovation in equal measure. Her signature wit, her grande dame style, those exotic rings with stones beautiful and bold. The way she commands every room she's in, your attention Sue will most certainly hold. Whether at home in Surrey or in her villa in Tenerife, she is surrounded by friends galore. Holding court at dinners and strolls on the beach, time spent with her is never a bore. An unrivaled pioneer in the wellness world, embracing an integrative approach before it was de rigueur. Twice-a-year visits with Dr. Stossier at Viva Meyer, with results that belie her years. And today she's here to share that approach, one she's championed all of her days. And while COVID has dealt us a difficult blow, Sue has ideas that can ease the malaise. If you ask Sue what keeps her sane in these undeniably insane times, she'll wax poetic about her grandchildren and her own wellness routine sublime. Sue is deeply committed to all that is good. She has been since her earliest days. Her recent efforts on behalf of cancer patients who receive spa treatments because Sue helped clear the way. She is generous and warm and beautiful inside and out. That we are friends is a gift of priceless proportion. And while a few of her ex-husbands may disagree with my words, Sue has the last laugh, which is clearly their misfortune. And so, without any further ado, the inimitable Sue Harmsworth, here now. A force of nature and a woman who helped build an industry. Are we lucky she's here? And how? Sue, welcome.
Oh, Nancy, that's quite unbelievable. How am I going to follow that?
Only you could.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really lovely, and you really caught me. Well done, you.
Well, thank you.
Inimitable Nancy.
Well, listen, first of all, you were here with us, one of our first master classes almost a year ago. Tell us, in this year, how have you survived? What have you been doing? What do you see today for this world we're all in?
That's a big question. So, and can you hear me all right on my phone?
Very well.
Okay, good. So what I thought today, maybe, Nancy, we should really discuss is not so much COVID, because I think everyone's analyzed it to death.
Absolutely.
And we're going to have to learn to live with it for a very long time. I think if we look back through history, you know, there's the Spanish flu, there was the plague, there was tuberculosis, and so on and so forth. So in 20 years, when I think we look back on this time, we will have a completely different viewpoint. And it will be a time in history, one could say, that the universe was telling us something. And I think that we've had, I mean, certainly in Europe, it's 50 years since we had a war. I know other parts of the world are different. And in a way, it's a realignment. So for me, and I'm speaking to a lot of people on a very regular basis, this has been a time to reassess, to contemplate, to think about what's important. And so today, what I'd really like to discuss is more the way forward than this past year, because we're not through it yet, but we have to stay optimistic. Absolutely. And the one thing that's happened for our industry, in spite of all the awful stuff, and you know, the universe is an interesting thing, whether you're religious or spiritual or whatever you are. I do think it has told us a lot and taught us a lot of lessons. And as much as mental health and all the things we know about are going to be tragic and have to be dealt with over the next years, we are going to come out of this, or a lot of us are, much more resilient. And we know that wellness now is going to become more important than ever. And I was talking this week by email, actually, to John at Kamalaya, and he did say that in Thailand, for instance, that people have suddenly realized that they want to know about wellness. They weren't interested before. So for us all, it's a huge opportunity. Obviously, it's accelerated the awareness and the growth of our whole industry. But I think now it's a pivotal turning point, and we have a need for disruption in the industry. And one of the big things that I'm worried about is the word wellness and what it means and how we define it going forward.
Right, I think you talked about light wellness and serious wellness, right?
Correct, and that's how I see it. So the word wellness, as you know, we see it everywhere now. We see it in the supermarket. We see it, everything is wellness, absolutely everything. And that's dangerous. It's even worse than spa, because when we look at wellness, we're dealing with much more serious issues. And I think we need to define what we mean by integrative wellness, what we mean by medical. And I mean, I think maybe we should start there. So I think the global consumer and all the chat that's been going on those people are going to be much more aware now that they have to take ownership of their own wellness. Now, we have to define as an industry, and as you say, what is light wellness? And the hospitality industry, if you look at what the hospitality industry is doing now, all of them are looking at wellness, whether it's sleep, whether it's nutrition, whether it's immune system building. You know, all the chat about the microbiome. Yep. We have to really get into the microbiome and make sure people don't abuse that knowledge in the incorrect way. So if I may, I'd like to sort of start by defining this different terminology.
Please, yes.
So to me, integrative wellness means that we have to that it has to involve medical, because integrative means taking complementary medicine and more traditional medical and bringing them together for the benefit and the health of the nation, if you like. And then on top of that, we've got spa and we've got beauty. Now, the other thing is, when I talk about medical now, I think our industry needs to talk much more about prevention. You know, with the GWS and the GWI, I've been pushing prevention for a long time. What we know is that medical systems throughout the world predominantly deal with the sick. So by the time you get to a doctor, there's something wrong with you. And the public health systems around the world are not going to be able to afford to sustain this aging population. I'm working with quite a few doctors, Dr. Neil Carpenter in the UK, who's been supporting the spa industry enormously. And he gave me a statistic, which I found was really scary, if I can find it. It was that there's about 8 million children under 10 in the UK and about 9.5 million over the age of 70. So how, I mean, if you think of, and that'll be the same more or less all over the world. So how are we going to sustain the public health systems to afford to look after these aging populations around the world? The other stat they gave me was that 60% of people over 60 have major health problems, long-term major health problems. And I have quite a few of these reports. So, you know, they're all really, really interesting.
Maybe we can, when we send the notes after, we can link to some or send some of those reports.
I'll ask them if they can go into the public domain. They
Great.
are obviously, some of them are government and some of them are obviously confidential, but
Okay.
I'll see what we can get hold
Great,
of.
thank you.
So if we go into light wellness and more serious wellness, and at the moment, I think the hospitality industry does not understand that. So we're dealing, there's two issues. There's number one, as those of you who are involved in the spa industry and dealing now with consumers know, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, mental stress, physical stress. People often cry in a treatment. We're dealing with people's physical and mental emotions. As we move into wellness, that's going to be even more extreme. So when you talk about a sleep program, where does the mindfulness breath work stop and the cognitive serious health issues start? And we're in danger of not empowering therapists enough to be able to make those decisions. Same with diet and things like that. The therapists aren't yet knowledgeable enough to be able to read the contraindications, understand the microbiome. So a lot of what I'm saying is then going to be tied to training programs to create these specialist therapists that we're going to need longer term. So if you look at all the 5-star groups at the moment, they're all using the word wellness all of a sudden. Spa has just gone out of the window, which is crazy because people are going to need spa more than ever. after this, and there has to be a definition of what's what. Now, I do believe that hotel groups and the hospitality industry can do light wellness well, sorry for the pun, but they are going to need the experts. They can't play with it. It's not something you can play with. So when I look at light wellness, I think about things like breath work, yoga, healthy eating with nutrition, not necessarily with a serious nutritionist, holistic spa treatments. We definitely do programs for fitness, for light anxiety, anxiousness, if you like. But in order to treat people with type 2 diabetes and cancer, which is 1 in 2, as you know, all this mental health and anxiety that's going to need cognitive assessment, we do need doctors, and we need functional medicine doctors. So people get very confused between what I call allopathic medicine, where you would go for your annual checkup, or if you had symptoms, and then functional medicine testing, which I've used all my life for prevention. So as you know, for the past 40 years, I've been to I've been to Canyon Ranch, I've been to Shah, I've been to Viva Maya, I've been to the original Maya. I can name them, it's a long list. I go as much for interest as I do for my personal health. I've been blessed with good health, but I have worked on it. Now, every time I go and have functional medicine tests, I find little things like I might need some more zinc, or I might be deficient in vitamin. I actually did find I was deficient in vitamin D3. And this is more what I call prevention. And I think that as an industry, that's what we should be focusing on, which isn't to say that there isn't a place for the clinics, and the clinics are going to grow, there's no question. But it's very different taking, say, a 45-year-old or a 50-year-old who just wants to stay well, but needs to reboot every year or every 6 months, or needs to re-energize or refocus or take a look at their life and so on and so forth, than it is doing, as I said, going to a hospital or going to a medical doctor. It's a different process. Whereas I think you might go to a regular resort for fun, and you still, it was the same with spa. What was serious spa, what was light spa, but now it's getting more serious, because if we don't empower the therapist to have this knowledge to be able to deal with all these lifestyle issues, then we're dealing with people's health, emotional health, physical health, spiritual health, and we could have major contraindications, major breakdown.
So,
I remember,
are you essentially saying that the where there had been such a strong move toward integrating into any wellness program that people have been talking about, all of these kinds of treatments and protocols, and what you seem to be saying is that you need the light and the serious working together? I mean, is that what you mean?
no,
Expecting people who are already, let's say, working in spas or wellness destinations, to all of us to get medical degrees. You're expecting them to kind of collaborate on somebody's holistic health?
so there's 2 things there. I think the light and the more serious often have a different place, as in geographical place. So I think the hospitality industry is more suited to light.
Okay.
Because you don't go to a resort in the Maldives or a resort in Bali for medical reasons, or to look at your health in a more serious way. If you're going to a 5-star hotel resort, which was previously called a spa, I think they'll start to move more into complementary health. And we will be able to, I think, upskill a lot of therapists, only the senior ones. They're going to have to go through a process, and it's not going to be done overnight. So if in the UK, it would be a level 3 student. I think we need to make modules to upskill them. So it would be, for instance, that they could recognize, say you had skin cancer or you had a mole on your back, the therapist can actually recognize that enough that she says to you, go and see your doctor. That's one thing. And then type 2 diabetes or cancer, they can do a module to be able to deal with those things that's quite quick. So if they've got their basic training and they're quite well skilled therapists already, we should be able to build modules that they can add on that can empower them to recognize things, to recognize contraindications, and also to be able to do a great holistic treatment for those people who've got those contraindications. I set up the SATCC, which is the Standards Authority for Training in Cancer Care. And the reason I did that was I was seeing so many people being turned away from having treatment, consumers I'm talking about, because the therapists didn't know how to deal with it. And what we've tried to do is put together a good list of training providers, and we're about to go international with it because we got so inundated in the UK. So it's basically a source for therapists to add on their cancer training. Now, if we have 1 in 2 people projected to have cancer in their lifetime, that to me is a basic necessity. But then we can carry on from there. They've then got to be able to recognize a client that is wanting a sleep program, and maybe some breath work, some mindfulness, some yoga, some good nutrition is going to deal with that. But maybe it's a more serious problem. So the therapists have got to be able to recognize these things, they're not new lifestyle diseases. If you look at the last 50 years, these lifestyle issues have arisen over the last 50 years through diet change, through, as we've identified all the reasons for that, for the pace of life, for all the flying around we do, for interrupting the circadian rhythms, with all of this stuff. So I suppose my caution, Nancy, is more, without going into the detail of it all, else I'll bore everyone to death. My caution is, when you're designing for the future, whether it's an existing property or it's a property you're going to build, you need to be very aware of what all this different terminology means, and make sure that the consumer understands it. Because my point is, with the overuse of the word wellness, it's such a generic term that people aren't going to understand what program you're offering or how serious it is. Now, the new generation of integrative wellness resorts is to my mind going to be fantastic, and it's going to be the way forward. And I think to a degree it might be a threat to the hospitality industry. So there comes the disruption, I think the groups, the hospitality groups, either they need wellness leaders and sustainability leaders, because they're 2 different things completely. Sustainability, wellness, and now we've got to put infection in the mix. So all of those things, but certainly sustainability and wellness need leadership within the groups. And I think hospitality can learn an enormous amount from our spas, our wellness experts, and it should be going both ways now. That transference of knowledge should be going both ways much more. So I suppose what I'm saying is, before you go into the medical piece, and by medical we're saying functional medicine testing, looking at the microbiome. I'm also working with Dr. Stephen Barry, who was the granddaddy of functional medicine testing. He was the founder of Genova, which was one of the biggest labs globally, and also very involved with Viome. And I was talking to him as well. And obviously we've all been talking about gut health, then brain health, then skin health. And now it's the microbiome, it's oral microbiome. And what Neil Carpenter said to me, that 100 years ago, an enormous number of people died from disease of the mouth. So, you know, it's almost like these things from years and years ago are coming to the front now. Does that make sense? Or is it confusing?
It makes a lot of sense. You're getting, you know, a tremendous amount of chatter in the chat, which is fantastic. Lots of very, very interesting comments at people really appreciating the distinctions that you're making and what you're saying. I think it's fascinating that it wasn't that long ago that nobody knew the word wellness, and now we're saying it's kind of an overused word and needs further definition. I think it's, you know, what's interesting is that this is what you're seeing and you are working with and helping to design and create all kinds of destinations and programs and things. So are you seeing an appetite and an acceptance for this integrative approach now for real? I know you've trumpeted it forever, but are you seeing, and also how do people, you know, there's a concern about affording it. You know, a lot of people have really thought about wellness becoming more democratized and affordable and available. And, you know, this you're talking, and it gets into healthcare and wellness. And what are you seeing in all of that?
So the appetite for it seems to me to be huge. And
Okay.
there are very visionary owners out there who get it. I think when I started in the industry, I told you, I think that I was thought to be almost like a witch because I believed in complementary medicine. Well, what I would say is that now the medical profession is beyond beginning to, it's quite far into recognizing the advantages. And what we're finding is doctors more and more recommending osteopaths and acupuncturists. I mean, obviously they're modalities, they've got their preferred modalities. But yes, I think so. So if we step back a bit as to the consumer, I think the integrative wellness resorts of the future will be able to deal with people who want diagnostics and they want really serious, they want to address their health seriously for the future on an ongoing basis. But it's also where they'll want to go back maybe more casually sometimes and just have spa treatments, but know that they've got biophilic farms, that they can eat organic food, that they can do spiritual realignment and all of that sort of thing. So at the moment, if you think about it, you've got the two extremes. You've had the clinics in Germany and Austria that are very medical, and then you've had the more Asian holistic approach, spiritual approach. And now obviously what's happening is the two are merging together, which is good, which is great. But yes, I definitely see the appetite for it from consumers. I think in a way, the consumers and the visionary owners are ahead of the game. The problem we've got, and I'd say this and I'll probably get shot, is we haven't got any operators. So it's a new operating model that isn't out there yet. And the danger so I suppose where I'm maybe not making myself quite clear enough, the danger is if you haven't got an operator who understands all of this, then they're going to make major mistakes, because light wellness is easy to execute alongside hospitality. This more serious model where you're playing with people's health, mental health and physical health, is much more complex to deliver.
Right.
And people do programs. They do, you know, if you were to ask people to do programs, they would prefer to have a minimum of 14 to 21 days, and not many people can afford that kind of time.
Yeah, time or resources, I would say.
Well, so on to the cost.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you to just take one minute, take a sip of water, and I want Tammy Payhill. This is a perfect moment for our Tammy from the Carillon Miami Spa and Wellness Resort, the Wellness Resort, to speak to this issue of light and serious wellness, she is seeing a tremendous uptick in interest in treatment. And Tammy, I'm just going to ask you to take, 2 minutes and tell us your perspective on this. You just unmute, bottom left. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sue, you're incredible. You are amazing. You're so spot on of what's happening in the world around us today. And to your point, everybody's looking for it. And at the Carillon, we have integrative medicine. We have a company called BioStation, which is a real operator. The doctor, the founder of it, was a cardiologist. So he's all about testing. And then we added energy medicine, biofeedback. We have a hyperbaric chamber. We have touchless wellness. We have also Chinese medicine, chiropractor. So to your point, that's the future, because it has to be holistic. You have to look at the whole person. And to your point, you need the testing.
Yeah.
Without the testing, you can't help that person. So it is the foundation. The integrative medicine is the foundation, and all the other complements around that make wellness real. So thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy.
I think, Tammy, you're gonna have to have host Sue at the Carillon when she's up on a plane again and heading to Florida.
You can always be our guest.
So I wonder if, when you and I talked before this call in preparation, you also wanted to address the design and building of wellness destinations and what is happening there. Is that something you would like to pivot to and talk about?
Happy to. Yes. So because of the pandemic, I think what the pandemic has done is obviously brought us to the hygiene and infection side of things. I think as an industry, we've always been quite good on hygiene because it's part of most therapists' training. However, infection is a completely different thing. And this was another Dr. Neil Carpenter issue. Now, for a long time, I've been bashing on way before the pandemic about bringing fresh air into buildings as much, because we've got to look at the wellness of our therapists and our workforce going forward. So if you think of it, over the last probably 20 or 30 years, everybody's been very conscious of building buildings that are completely sealed, which of course from an infection point of view is completely different. It's just the worst thing you could do. So now all of a sudden, the data, as I'm sure you know the data, everybody on this call knows the data, that with fresh air intake, you reduce the likelihood of infection and COVID by something like 70–80%. So the need for us going forward, I always wanted, and this is an engineering thing, so the engineers have really got to think about quality of air, quality of water within the building. And that is quite a challenge. So sustainability is another subject. And although I'm very, very hot on sustainability, I think there are better people than I on sustainability, because when you come to the engineering of sustainability and the finishes and the lighting systems, circadian rhythms, everything else, it's such a complex subject. And I do think that any major project going forward should have a sustainability officer in the same way as they have mechanical and electrical engineers. It's that important. So I think we need to break the consumer down as well. So there's going to be a consumer that wants privacy completely. And I think that there may be the ones with a compromised immune system. So even with the vaccine, from what I'm hearing, those people are still sensitive. And we've got a long way to run with this pandemic for it to burn itself through. And there'll be others that come, and there'll be mutations that come. So we have to learn to live with it. So I think the control of infection is going to be really important in building. And then back to the privacy issue, from everybody I talk to who's got booking systems for spas and wellness or are tour operators, they say that the demand is latent, and as soon as people open their doors, they're just going to be inundated. So the social aspect of wellness and wellness resorts is going to be very important on the one hand, and then the privacy issue is going to be really important on the other. So I think we have to think about that in the design. Not only the design of villas and rooms, for instance, you know, where I am here, I like doing everything in my villa. So I have everyone come to me. And I think there's going to be a big future trend for that with wellness communities in particular. And wellness communities, I mean, to your point, Nancy, about cost, remind me to come back to that.
Yeah, affordability and cost for all of this is something.
Yes, well, wellness communities I'm seeing at all levels of the market, which is really interesting.
Very interesting.
So one I was working on in Costa Rica were building for the artisans that were going to be on the property, for the therapists. So from that level up, so it wasn't millions and millions. They were going from about $300,000 all the way up to 2 or 3 million. So that was a very mixed wellness community from the levels of people, obviously taking advantage of it. Obviously, a lot of them are high end. So, but my view, and I've thought, you know, I have a very strong social conscience.
Yes.
But when we started in spa, it was seen as a real luxury, unaffordable, unattainable. When I ran Greyshot Hall back in the 70s or 80s, it was early 80s, it was a very wealthy clientele, very elite, coming for a minimum of 7 days. And if I think from that time to now, spas have become affordable. Not to everybody, they never will be, but you have to think about, you know, if you think of spa days and the number of girls who get together and go and do a spa day, or now increasingly they're doing weekends away on spa breaks and stuff like that. I think we have to start somewhere and get the model right. If we get the model right, I also think that public health will start to take notice. So just a statement out of interest. I'm working with a doctor at Imperial College in London, and he's a psychiatrist, a mental health specialist, very interesting man. And I said, you know, he wanted to look at our industry with a view to psychiatrists and psychologists recommending patients to have massage on the national health. And I said, well, surely they're never going to afford that. And he said, it's going to be cheaper to send people for a massage once a week or once a month than it is to put them on antidepressants for a year. Now, Dr. Neil Carpenter is on that route as well, as are several people you know within the industry. The government, they will not be able to do this themselves. And as an industry, if we can build the skill set to support the national health systems, it's going to be very good commercially for the world, but also a lot of it's going to be paid for by health systems of various kinds, which I know is not us answering the question about affordability, but I don't know about in the US, but certainly in a lot of parts of the world, there are villages now. I mean, I hate the thought myself because I'm such not a community person to live in a community like that. But there's retirement villages where they're bringing in all the wellness services. You know, Saga in England were building retirement villages with wellness centers, and they had GPs on site and all of that sort of thing. So it does go right across the board. However, I do think the luxury market will be the first to get it right, because the practitioners are going to be so expensive. The other thing is, I know we're not talking totally about building, but we're talking about differentiating the social side of spa, which I think is going to be very strong, and the need for privacy. So when we're building, we have to think of those two things. And then do we have to think with thermal? Nancy, I'm struggling with the thermal guys giving me evidence. I know that they've got a lot of information, and I have, if you remember, I was one of the first with Anna to do that hydrothermal meeting where I thought they were going to kill each other. But going forward, they've done such a great job, but we need evidence to say that the thermal areas are safe, which we know that sauna is because it's over 60 degrees. We know that vitality pools have either salt or trickle chlorine, whatever it is, but we have to get evidence on that. And I know there's a lot of evidence coming through on the health benefits, but some owners are resisting. And they're resisting because they don't feel they're safe. So if you can push them on that, that would be great for the industry, because that's more the social area, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think with the thermal side, you're going to have people who want it in their villa. They want an infrared sauna in their villa. And then you're going to have people who want the traditional, what we've been using for the last 20 years, which is the sauna, steam, laconiums, and so on and so forth, and separate sex, unisex, whatever it is. I think both models need looking at, and going forward, we're going to make changes, because I think a lot of those things might have to be bookable as services for safety reasons.
So is there any, the whole integrative approach in medicine, and you were talking about public health, what about hospitals? In bringing in wellness, and how are you working with any, are you finding that any of the services there can overlap?
Well, there's a big discussion, and I have a feeling somebody I'm dealing with it is on this call, so he'll kill me. But there is a huge discussion going on about cosmetic surgery and non-invasive aesthetics. But to the point about hospitals, and I'll come back to that cosmetic surgery if anyone wants me to, but yes, well, you can see it with the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic. They're all building complementary health and spas within their campuses, or if they've not done it already, they're certainly looking at it. And they're accepting the benefits of complementary health before surgery and after surgery. And if you look at orthopedics, I think the future within our integrative wellness resorts for orthopedics is going to be huge, because if you're prepared properly, if your microbiome is right, if your weight is right, if your muscle mass is right before you have knee surgery or hip surgery or any of that kind of surgery, and then you have the right rehabilitation and physio afterwards, that is absolutely key to ongoing health. And orthopedics is growing enormously. So it's not just old people with orthopedics, it's because we've had such a bad diet for so long. So breaks and osteoporosis and all of these things are growing at a much faster rate than they were previously. So we're seeing more knee surgery, more hip surgery, more injury.
Yeah.
And I think with integrative medicine, the rehab part of that and the physio part of that will be a big part of the market as well.
Yeah, and it does seem like, if wellness destinations are going to look to medicine for a kind of partnership for things, and it has to work both ways. We've definitely been seeing that as a trend, for sure, more and more of it.
And also the ones I'm looking at globally, the question is being asked, one of the questions being debated by the owners of these projects is, if there's a hospital on one side, and then you can move from the hospital to recovery, and then you can move from recovery to integrative wellness, and so on. I mean, I looked at a project years ago in Dubai to do just that. But now the time is there. And I think Mia's working on one as well, where, and if it's not yours, so for instance, Lanzerhof in Germany have a great hospital close by. So they've got a wing where you can go and have your CAT scans, PET scans, MRI scans. So they send you over there. It's a private wing. You're very quick and you come back. Shah have a hospital very near them for scanning. So I think there will be a growth in that. I can see loads of things flashing up. Have you got any generic questions?
Yeah. There's a ton of stuff. We've been integrating a little bit of it, and everybody will get the chat, as you will too. And I want to remind everybody this is recorded and we share the recording. So there are some people trying to take notes of everything Sue said, and it's absolutely impossible, but you will definitely get the recording. I would be remiss if I did not ask you, Sue, about your own regimen when it comes to wellness, and how you have defied the years and how you do it.
Well, do you know, when you look, it's very easily with hindsight, isn't it? I've had a very stressful life. People often think I haven't because of the life I lead. But if you think about it, I was on, from the age of 25, I had my children in my early 20s. And from the age of 25, I had my own business, other than when I ran Grey Shot and I worked for a company with the cruise liners when they were just tipping over into spas and integrative, well, not integrative, spas more. And then I founded Spa, you know, which was full on. I mean, absolutely full on. And I've had 2 marriages. I've got 2 grown married sons and 6 grandchildren. So hindsight being a great thing, I tell you what, the strongest thing for me and why I'm so hell-bent on making people resilient, is I've got very strong mental health. And I was given that by growing up after the war, by having parents who gave me opportunities and pushed me, who, you know, we mollycoddle children a lot now. They're so resilient if we allow them to be. And I think that I always wake up and I try and overcome every challenge every day. And I used to teach, I know Tracy's on here and Paula, I used to teach them the same, you know, do the hardest thing first, do the most challenging thing first. But I have practiced what I preach. I'm too heavy, or have been for a long time, but I eat for the microbiome. I've gone every year since I was in my 30s to various places around the world. But you know what, Nancy, I love life, and I try and, I know affirmations. I said to somebody the other day who's in the music business, who's in a bad way at the moment, I said, do you do your affirmations? And he looked at me and says, what are affirmations? This is a very intelligent person. And I said, what do you mean, what are affirmations? You don't know your affirmations? Anyway, I do affirmations every day. And I thank God for what I have, not for what I have not. And although I'm in very good space now, I was very close to losing everything a couple of times. I nearly lost the company twice and stuff like that. And it's resilience and it's drive and it's overcoming adversity, and it pushes me. But I do exercise here 45 minutes a day in the pool with weights and goodness knows what. And I try and give back, Nancy. I think, you know, with the grandchildren, it's not just the grandchildren, but it's just, you know, if you give, you get back. I mean, life is like that. Is that enough?
That is absolutely, yes, it's absolutely wonderful. What in the world these days what gives you hope these days when you look at
human nature? I am absolutely astounded by the innovation that's going on at the moment. And people, I just think it's amazing how people are overcoming such awful stuff that's around. And I think my optimism says that we will come out of this a lot better. We will hopefully have learned lessons. We'll be kinder to each other, all those things. I can see all these people flashing up from all over the please.
Yeah, so you're inspiring everyone. Everybody thinks you're wonderful. I've been asked privately and on the group chat if I'll invite you back to another masterclass because there's not enough time for everything. So consider yourself formally invited to come back again. Sue, what's the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
Oh, good Lord. Well, I think the most important lesson is you can take nothing for granted ever. Money, I mean, it's nice to have it, and I'm very lucky now to finally have it. I might tell you I made and lost a lot of it. But, and that's what this pandemic will have shown us. You cannot, there should be no entitlement. It's a global issue. We're all in it together. There isn't one country, you know, this goes round, this just goes round. And look after each other. We're going to have to look after each other, and we're going to have to support all the way through. We can't do it on our own.
I know that you have in your life traveled, I don't know, 250, maybe 300 days a year, different times. Now you are not at all. Do you think you'll go back to traveling?
Not that way. So for the industry, I think people are going to be much more conscious of how and why they travel. Mm. So I hope I never go back to that kind of travel, because I don't think it does great things for your body and your mind. And much though I think Zoom has been amazing and it's been a salvation during these times, we all need people. But I think it's interesting, you know, even talking to Neil Jacobs, talking to those sorts of people, I think people are going to go on holiday in the way maybe they did before, where they go for longer periods of time and they consider why they go.
Right, a more
and you're not
conscious
going
kind
to,
of travel. Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly, and experiential for sure. Yeah. And I think people, it's interesting, you say about cost. You know, people look at glamping and yurts and, you know, I think people just want to get back to nature and doing things down to earth. And the most important thing is who you're with and what you're doing and the people around you, you know. And I think we've proved that, haven't we? Or, unless you've you've either killed each other or you're loving each other. I mean, there's not much in the middle. There's more divorces now. And this is what I'm saying about the awful stuff. We just don't want to get into the awful stuff. But right. It's interesting. I just saw a little flash here from Fatima, who did me a facial the other day here in Tenerife. She at the Ritz-Carlton. So you see, you bring them all in.
You bring them all in. Okay, so we're going to end with a lightning round of questions to you, made famous by James Lipton on Inside the Actors Studio, adapted for our wellness masterclass. Are you ready? What is your favorite wellness word?
Prevention.
What is your least favorite wellness word?
Oh, Jesus. What's your least? Oh, I don't know, Nancy. Crap.
Okay. What
Noise.
are you currently reading? What's on your nightstand?
Oh, I've got it here. What am I reading? I'm reading a John Grisham thriller.
Okay, fabulous. What are you binge watching on Netflix?
Well, I've just finished Bridgerton, so I've got to start something else.
Fabulous.
I love Bridgerton, all those bodies. My goodness me.
What is the one thing you eat or drink every day, no matter where you are in the world?
Water, obviously. Oh, what do I every single day? Berries.
Good.
Water and berries, probably.
What is your superpower?
My mind.
And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Why did it take you so long?
Okay, everybody, please unmute yourselves and give Sue some global love. Sue, you are amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you so
Carolyn.
much.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
call.
Thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Everyone has a great day.
Very good.
Thank you.
Bye, Lily. Bye, Tammy.
Excellent.
Bye.